to demonstrate how to tear down and re-lubricate a Micromatic Record Changer by Magnavox. We're often contacted by people with issues with the record changer, and most of the problems are due to hardened grease and dirt. The grease that's applied at the factory, in some cases, 50 years ago, has hardened to the point where the parts just aren't able to move as they should. So in many cases, just tearing it down and re-lubricating it will fix that. The second most common problem is probably with the idler wheel, either being damaged, excessively worn, or just sometimes they get really hard and slick where it's they're not able to spin. So we'll address that as well. But before I did, I wanted to, for those who are not familiar with how to remove these from the cabinet, I wanted to show that just real quickly. Sometimes these are sent to us, and the screws have been removed from the top, which is not necessary. So let me kind of demonstrate how you remove the record changer here. So you do have to access the record changer from beneath the record changer from inside the cabinet, and then you'll see three. These are the three screws on top. This is a spring that supports the record changer in the cabinet, and then you've got this clip here. And sometimes, if the screws haven't been removed, then the clips have been pulled off. But it's not even necessary to do that. So typically, they're going to be in this position, like that. And then there's also usually a rubber grommet or washer that's there. So just in order to remove it, you'll disconnect. Let's see if I can find it on this one here. So these are going to be the audio connections. So you would just disconnect the audio connections there, and then the power connection is going to be right there. If I can get my camera into it. So that's the audio or the power connection. So disconnect the connection there, and then the two cables for the audio, and then you would just go around to these three clips and just move them straight like that. And once they're straight like that, then it'll lift right out of the cabinet. So here's the second one, and the third one's down there. So not necessary to remove the screws from the top. Just flip those clips, and it'll lift right out. So okay, so the first step is we need to remove the platter, and to do that, normally there's a C-clip right here, and so you would just remove that, set that aside, and to be certain that you don't lose it. This one has already been removed, so this will lift right off. The other thing I do is I like to tape the tone arm down. We're going to be turning the record changer over back and forth, and it's just best to have that tone arm secured while you do it. So let's get started. Okay, so the platter's been removed, and I've secured the tone arm. I usually begin just by doing just kind of a visual inspection of the area under the platter here, inspecting the idler wheel. And one thing I'm looking for is just, is there any noticeable damage to it? Sometimes if the record changer is left engaged and the idler wheel has been engaged with the motor pulley and has been that way for years, a lot of times there'll be a little bump or an indentation there. And so this one looks pretty good. It's still somewhat pliable. We'll apply some rubber renew to that. We do that with all of our reconditioning projects. Drive wheel looks good. When you pull this off, you want to make sure that you note the orientation of all the washers. And there's oftentimes one or two will stick to the top of the platter when you pull it off. So you'll want to note that, and note the order in which they come out, because you don't want to go back in that same order. So this one actually looks pretty good. We've come across some that have just been filthy inside, and this one looks like it's been well cared for. So the next step is we're going to start removing the idler wheel, drive wheel, and the bearing assembly inside. So stand by. Okay, so we've removed the components on top of the record changer. What I like to do is I'll set up two paper towels, one for the components on the top, and then one for the ones on the bottom of the record changer. So I've got everything laid out, keeping everything together, and I've got the washers set up in the order in which they'll go back in, and everything is laid out and ready to be cleaned. I usually will set these aside and then start on the bottom, and then we'll come back and clean and reinstall these when we're ready to finish up. Again, overall, the platter, or the underside of the top side of the record changer is in really good condition. We're going to disassemble and clean. This is the drive wheel assembly, but it's going to be easier to do that once we have that taken out. So we'll leave that in there for now. So let's get the record changer turned over, and we'll start on the bottom. Okay, so I got the camera mounted on the tripod, and it allows me to operate hands-free here. Hopefully it won't sacrifice too much of the detail. I'm not going to be able to get as close and with some of these shots as I would like, but that's probably okay. My camera is not great and doesn't seem to focus on close shots, so I'll try and be as descriptive as I can as we go along here. So one thing I didn't mention in an earlier clip is I've already removed these three screws here, and so the only thing that's holding the base assembly in place, maybe a couple of things. We've got to remove this is the tone arm height assembly. The cam gear will rotate during the auto function, and it raises the tone arm so that it goes out and touches the record to sense the size. So we'll need to remove that. We've got one nut to remove here, and we're going to remove this is where the two audio cables connect, and this is the muting switch, and so we'll need to remove that. This particular model, this is out of Magnavox Imperial, and this one has a remote. So this is a solenoid that will activate when the remote is in use. So we may try and leave that on there and not mess with that, but we'll see if that has to come off. Of course, we'll disconnect the ground wire from the motor, and then we'll need to lift up one edge of this motor here so we can get this out. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll start here and go ahead and pull these off. Alright, got a little clip here we need to move out of the way. Be careful not to pull on the audio wires to the audio connection there. Okay, so two screws and this lifts off. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd like to keep my parts separate, so I've got a towel over here out of picture that I'm going to keep everything on. And I just bumped the camera. I'm going to make sure that the frame is still in focus there. Alright, looks okay. Alright, so I'm going to set these to the side. And there's a little C-clip here holding this in place. We want to go ahead and remove that. Be really careful when you pull these C-clips off. If you don't have your thumb and finger over them as you're pulling it off, they'll fly off the bench, and you'll spend countless time or countless minutes and maybe hours looking for that little piece again. So be careful when you pull that off. And to lift this up and get this out of the way. Just a little spring holding that in place. We'll just lift that up enough where we can pull it off to the side here. Alright, so that's been removed. And we can lift this out. And I'll tell you what, before we do that, let's go ahead and pull this center nut off. That'll allow us to remove that, lift that spring out of the way where it's a little easier. Let's put that there. Okay, so that can just be lifted up and set off to the side. This piece comes out. A little lever coming from the muting switch goes right in there, and so it's just be careful when you remove this that you don't bend that. So it's actually not in too bad a shape. It looks like maybe, I mean, there's some hardened grease there, but looks like maybe some newer grease or fresher grease. And I kind of noticed that on the center bearing assembly, like maybe somebody had sprayed some WD-40 down in there. So we'll set this to the side. Later we're going to come back and we'll disconnect this, clean this up, and re-lubricate it. So, all right, let's go ahead and get the muting switch off. Okay, so there's a couple things you need to watch for when you remove this. There, of course, there's the screw there that you want to hang on to. There's also a tiny spring that you really want to be careful that you don't lose. So just be cautious when you lift this up that you're not losing the screw or the spring here. Okay. Alright, so here's our muting switch lever, and the spring and the screw, and we'll keep those together on our parts towel there. So we'll set that off to the side. Alright, so this is the tone arm lifting shaft, you would call it. We're going to need to remove that, but to do that we're going to need to flip this over. There's another C-clip on the top of this. Once we remove that C-clip, then this will lift off. While we've got it here, we'll go ahead and continue to disconnect and get things ready to come out here. So I've got the ground cable, ground lead from the motor disconnected. So really the only thing that's left besides this, we just need to lift up this motor here just a little bit where we can get this out from under it. So let's select the screwdriver here. Okay, so we got a C-clip and a washer. Alright, so we'll set those aside for now. And just need to pull that up just enough where you can get that assembly out from under it there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and turn this over. Anytime that you move this, you want to be really careful with the audio assembly there. It's just being held in place now by just the audio wires, and they're pretty thin and could easily get pinched and broken if you weren't careful. So, all right, so we'll turn this over here. Okay, so I'm going to have to undo the tone arm here for a second and lift it up. And of course you're not going to be able to see it from this angle, but there's a little C-clip holding that tone arm height shaft. And so let's get a screwdriver in there. Going to pull that off. Again, being very careful not to lose it. We'll set that to the side. Alright, so let's flip it back over, holding the audio connection assembly in place. Okay. Alright, so in turning it over, this is the tone arm height shaft. There may be another word for it, but this is the thing that's, once the cam is in motion, it's going to rotate where it pushes this up, and it pushes this up, which causes the tone arm to lift. And so we're going to set this aside and we'll come back to that. So at this point, everything's free where we can begin removing this part here. And so to do that, you just want to lift up on the motor enough where you can just kind of pull this out. Alright, so as I mentioned here, this is a solenoid that's used with the remote. I always like to note dates of manufacture. So this is dated May of 1967. So I would have been just a couple years old then. So really this is not too bad. I mean, the grease is is kind of hard in some places, but it's something we need to clean up. A little bit of dirt in there, but it's not too bad. So we're going to set this aside, put it over in our parts towel here. I need to check my camera. I just bumped into it again. I'm not sure if I shifted this picture out of focus. Let me check. Okay. It looks pretty good. Okay, so next step is we're going to remove the cam assembly. And as you do that, you just want to kind of note where the areas of the cam have been greased. You want to go back in that same area and apply grease. And there's a little roller here that you want to be careful not to lose. It just lifts right off. And so that's definitely something we don't want to lose. We're going to set that to the side here. And you just kind of lift up a little bit, and it comes right out. And note the other side. You can kind of see where grease has been applied. Now this is pretty hard there. It's not too bad. Alright. So we're going to go ahead and start with this piece. We're going to go ahead and get this cleaned up and re-grease it, and then we'll start working over into the motor assembly and take it from there. So let's set this off to the side just for a second, and we'll just kind of go in, and this will come out. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out because we're going to want to clean that up a little bit. And set that right there. We go in there and just kind of remove the existing grease. Now this is a little roller that you really want to pay close attention to. I've seen these where they just have been seized and just won't spin at all. And so this one is spinning, but we definitely want to clean that up and add some more oil there where that spins a little more freely. So, all right. So I've wiped off most of the old grease here. I'm going to go back and apply some 91% alcohol here. And we got a toothbrush here. You just like to go through and just really get that as clean as you possibly can. Okay. Flip this over and we'll clean the other side here. Improve visibility and save money with And you can see this came out of one of the tracks there. I'm not even sure what that is. But, yeah, looks like that might have been grease that had hardened a little bit there. So the things that you really want to pay attention to are these areas that are designed to move or spin, as in this case. And this would move back and forth here. Make sure there's nice fluid movement. Okay. So this cleans up pretty nice. Of course, this wasn't too dirty to begin with, but you'll make sure you get all the old grease off, get all of the alcohol off. Make sure that you allow it to dry a little bit, just to make sure before we go back and start applying fresh grease there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and clean the hole there. All right, I'm gonna pause here for a second. I need to get some Q-tips. I'm gonna mix up lithium grease so we can go back and start greasing that. So stand by. Okay, so we're back. I've mixed up some lithium grease. Use white lithium grease, and then I'll just add a few drops of 3-in-1 oil and mix it really good. So that's ready to go. So let's go back and we want to clean the opening there. And get a few Q-tips and just use a little bit of rubbing alcohol and clean that old grease out. Okay, so I think that's nice and clean now. Now this was the little shaft that we removed from the cam assembly. We want to go back and clean that up. Alright. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin applying our grease. Just put a little bit in the hole there. Okay, let's go ahead and reinsert that, and I'll just kind of work it in and out a little bit and try and distribute that grease all around there. Okay. Alright, so let's go and we're going to reapply the grease to everywhere that that had grease. Give me this track here. I'll put a little over there and then around here as well. So.
Pros in the know start with Lowe's, because at Lowe's, pros save every day on the materials and supplies they use most when they buy in bulk. Now you can get 30% off select in-stock fiberglass.
Well, some areas, and, well, this is probably true throughout, but there is the possibility of applying too much grease, so you want to be careful. It's maybe a little less critical in this area, but in other parts, too much grease could prevent it from working as it should. So that's probably enough. Just a little bit more.
It's a celebration of an NFL season filled with amazing performances and the emergence of new young stars. From mic'd up players to epic celebrations, the Pro Bowl has it all. All stars, all game. The 2019 Pro Bowl presented by Verizon, Sunday, January 27th.
Okay, so let's get our little bearing here. Can you go ahead and clean that?
Stay tuned for the halftime report with Scott Graham. Scott will recap the NFC Championship game won by the Rams in overtime, 26-23 over the Saints. That's coming up at the half. New England with a 3rd and 4 at their own 27-yard line. 1:13 remaining. Chiefs just used a timeout. Patriots look content to go.
Alright, it looks clean inside, but I usually just go ahead and looks good. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that back in place. Apply maybe just a little on the outside there. Okay, so that's what that should look like there. Let's flip it over and do the other side now. Really, there's just a couple areas on the side that you would need to apply it. Again, just kind of anything that moves, you want to make sure there's just a little bit of grease there. And I mentioned earlier, this is one that we're going to want to go back and add some. I use 3-in-1. I know some people use like sewing machine oil. I think both are acceptable. All right. And again, I think this is one area you want to be careful not to put too much in there. Just enough to kind of reduce the friction there.
Was baiting Andy Reid. I would not have called the timeout. The way this first half has gone, get in at halftime, make adjustments, you're only down 7 to get the ball. Timeout on the field, 7-0 Patriots, 41 seconds to go in the half. You're listening to the AFC Championship game on Westwood One. Hey Amy, did you know the Honda Dream Deal sales event is literally happening right now, where you can literally get great deals?
Okay, so let's apply a little 3-in-1 here.
Literally impossible, but there is literally a Honda Dream Deal sales event happening right now, and Honda is KBB.com's 2018 best value brand. Seriously, now's the time to get great deals.
Doesn't take much, just a couple of drops there. Make sure that spins freely.
Like your email every 10 seconds, or your ex's Instagram. But what about checking something as important?
Now I've seen some that where this bearing had frozen up, or if it just appears to be extremely dirty, I'll apply some penetrating oil and flush that out and let that sit, and then I'll go back with some 3-in-1. But I think this is fine. It wasn't it didn't appear to be really dirty. It was spinning fairly freely, so I think we're just going to add a little 3-in-1 and call it a day there. Okay. So our cam gear assembly is ready to go back in. So before we do that, I'll go in here and clean this area up just a little bit. This is an area here where this pin tracks across the cam assembly. And this is controlling the tone arm. So as this would track across the assembly, it's going to be moving the tone arm. So, but there's quite a bit of old grease on this little pin here. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit and just kind of clean up around the assembly there.
Interception from a long throw to the end zone kept it from being worse, but now New England on the move with 41 seconds to go in the first half. 2 timeouts remaining. First and 10 at the cheap 38-yard line. Lining up on the right hash. White to the right side of Brady. Gets the shotgun snap to give it to James White. Just sweep the left side. Looking for room to 35. Down inside the 30. Inbound at the 29-yard line. And New England will use its second timeout. They have 1 timeout remaining. Stopping the clock with 33 seconds remaining in this first half. Don't forget to join us Sunday, February 3rd for
Okay, so that looks good. I'll go ahead and install the cam assembly here.
Jim Gray hosts the pregame show at 5 p.m. Eastern. Scott Brand starts Super Sunday at 4. Super Bowl Insider begins at 3 p.m. Eastern. And our coverage kicks off with Super Bowl preview at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Alright, so before I go and start working on anything else, well, I've got this this motor undone here. I'm going to go ahead and remove the other 3 seat clips, or the other 2 seat clips and washers. I'm going to open up this motor and lubricate this while we've kind of got this area opened up here. So let's Alright, so let's go ahead and get those seat clips off. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and get the, let's get this out.
27 seconds left in the first half. You're listening to the AFC Championship game on Westwood Wall. Not many things scare me, kid.
And being very careful, there's a little a wash on here that you want to make sure that you don't lose. Sometimes it'll stick on the motor assembly, but make sure that you hang on to those. Okay, so this one's got the ground lead, or the ground wire from the motor, and you'll just note where that goes back.
Better prices every day. 8-play, 90-yard drive. The touchdown pass from Brady to Dorsett for 29 yards. And a 14-0 lead for New England as they'll kick off with 27 seconds remaining in this first half. Gostkowski kicking to Tremont Smith. Smith 2 yards deep in the end zone. Bouncing at the 30-yard line, taking it to the 25-yard line, looking for a little running room to the left side at the 30-yard line. It's Demetrius Harris. Harris across the 40-yard line and out of bounds. A 16-yard return for Demetrius Harris with 21 seconds.
Okay, now this will lift up off its base, and I usually just do an inspection of the motor pulley spindle. This, of course, is where this drives the idler wheel, and the different steps represent the different speeds. And so what I'm looking for is just, if there's a lot of dirt, or you'll get just residue off the idler wheel that will build up, and of course we'll go in there later and clean that up, make sure that's good. But it spins fairly freely right now, so this is not a situation where we're going to have to do too much. We've come across some that were just completely seized, and some we were able to fix, and others we weren't. So, but the 2 halves just separate. The bottom half here, and the top will come off as well. Alright, so when working with these, you want to be really careful especially in this area, not to get any oil or dirt in there. And I usually go through and just with a little bit of deoxit, I like to clean that up a little bit there, and then we'll add some 3-in-1 there. So let's do that here.
Welcome back to Sports News. Next topic. Is it really all about power? Makes me think of Progressive Name Your Price tool. Give you the power to find options based on your budget. That's what it's just for a relevant analogy.
Man, back in the day, people didn't ask how many oranges are in a crate. They just took the oranges. They didn't say, are they 6, 7, 12, 15, whatever. It was just oranges. You get me?
We get you, Chuck. In a word.
Okay, you want to clean the stem there.
Progressive Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
When's the last time you checked your credit score? Those 3-digit scores can have a huge impact on your financial life. Credit Karma can help you with free scores, free reports, and free monitoring.
Now, in some motors, this little area is a little more accessible than this one is.
You can even spot errors on your credit
So we're spraying a little bit of 3-in-1, not just in the hole there, but this area here.
completely free. No credit card needed. Visit
And
creditkarma.com.
sometimes it's a little easier to get to than others, but this got a little bit of opening there where we can spray just a little bit back in there. And again, on some of these that were in really bad shape, I would soak these in penetrating oil and try and flush out any contaminants, old oil. Because this one's spinning pretty freely, I don't think that's going to be necessary. So we'll just add a little bit of 3-in-1 there, and then put it back together. So let's start with the top part here. So what I like to do, I'll just apply a little bit on the top portion of the stem here, and then kind of work it in back and forth. Just kind of work some of that oil in there, and just a little more. And then you can tilt this just enough where you can get your 3-in-1 in there and just add a little bit there.
And the booze should be cascading down. I'm not sure what Roby Coleman was doing right there. They threw the pass. The receiver standing there, and he went and hit him before the ball even got there, but wasn't even playing the football.
And this is it's an area you want to be careful not to apply too much. And so I'm looking for any excess, and I'm going to try and clean that up. I don't see any there. So let's go ahead and just run a paper towel down in there just to make sure that we don't have any oil that's going to be dripping out later. Okay. Just a little bit more here. Alright, what's that side? Let's go back and we're going to add a little 3-in-1 here. Okay, so I'm going to blow this out. I don't see anything, but let's okay. I want to go back over with maybe just a little more deoxit here, just in case I might have got my oily hands or oily fingers on it here. So make sure there isn't any contaminants like that there. Okay, so let's go ahead and reinsert that. Alright, so you just want to make sure everything is nice and flush. It should be able to spin freely. And it sounds good because I can't hear anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it back in space here. lined up. And let's go ahead and secure that. Okay, so let's go ahead and install our screw at the ground wire and start tightening things down here. And kind of like tightening the lugs, the lug nuts on a tire, I kind of did in opposite corners here and not tightening any of them down just really tight yet. Okay, so now that's tightened down. Alright, that looks good. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and let's put our washers back on and our C-clips and secure the motor there. We're done with that. We'll secure all but one of them so that we can lift that end up when we need to. Alright.
Patrick made the switch December 2016. Make the switch at JUUL.com. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Sometimes you can just hand push them on. I'm going to use a screwdriver on this one. Again, you only want to hang on to that and cover your work as you're doing it, because this thing will fly off and you'll spend forever looking for it. So, okay, so we got those two secured. We're going to leave that one open for now. So, all right, let's continue to kind of work around the record changer here. Make sure our audio connections there are secure. Okay, so this is an area that's greased, and so we want to go back and remove these and clean those. So let's start here. All right, we've got a spring here. Don't want to lose that. Let's set that aside. We've got one C-clip holding this on. Go ahead and pry that off. Okay, so we got our C-clip. We'll set that with the spring. It's helpful to kind of keep all the parts that are related to a certain assembly together. So we've got this, and got a little bit of grease on top. There's some on the bottom. That's not really hard, but certainly would have affected its ability to slide smoothly. So we'll clean that one up. We've got a washer here. Alright, so let's set that aside. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one off just enough where I can clean under it. This is not really an area here that's making contact with anything. And there's a spring that you want to be careful not to lose. I do want to try and lift this up enough where I can get under this and make sure that's nice and clean. So I'll pull this off just a little ways here.
Football is about to get funner. This postseason, pump up the party with Skittles, Snickers, and M&M's brands.
Alright, so you're going to wash her with that. You want to be sure you don't lose.
Post-touchdown treats or just dishing up bowls of deliciousness. Skittles,
Alright.
Snickers, and M&M's brands. The stadium wave your taste buds can't resist with Skittles, Snickers, and M&M's brands. Football is always funner to the final second. Defend your vehicle from harmful elements at the same time with Armor All Chemistry Wipe. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up Armor All Chemistry Wipes for $3.99. Easily remove dirt, dust, and grime with Armor All Chemistry Wipes on sale for $3.99 at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. From suppliers, see stores for details.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and lift this up and out.
The Patriots got 90-yard drive, 80-yard drive to open the game, a 90-yard drive to close the
Alright.
and the Patriots with a 14-0 lead as we walk.
Definitely, this is an area here that we're going to want to lubricate and on top as well.
Who's hot so far? Brought to you by Navi and tankless water heaters, delivering an endless supply.
It overall doesn't look too bad. When I've got that off, I'm just going to go in there and just kind of clean this area up a little bit. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and start on this, clean this up, and start working our way back and putting things back together here.
So you look at the Chiefs, they're down 2 touchdowns, and as bad as it's been, if you can get a score right here, it's a ball. And to do that, those offensive lines have to do a better job. Mahomes does not have time right now, and what's happening, the Patriots are doing a lot of games, a lot of T's and ETs, that's quick, so they're moving a lot, and the Chiefs aren't on the same level. They have to
Okay, that's looking good.
pass things off and give Mahomes some time. For the Patriots, I think it's kind of the same old story. I'm pounding Sony Michel, I'm running the ball, and then look for them on a play-action pass to take a deep shot as the Chiefs crowd the box trying to stop the run game. They're going to get one-on-one outside. There'll be deep shots in the second half.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let's apply a little bit of grease here. Again, this is an area you want to just kind of lightly coat. You don't need a whole lot here.
Yeah, Kevin, so Andy Reid only talks at halftime when the Chiefs have a lead or a tie, but Bill Belichick was quick to note what happened in the first inning. If you remember, the Patriots had a 2-score lead.
Okay, so we got that back on the center stem.
In the Week 6 matchup between these two teams, and said he made sure everyone was well aware of that. Long way to go still in this game. 24-9 in that matchup. Patriots at halftime at Foxborough. 14-0. Here's free pass on first down to David Williams in the 30.
Okay. And we need to get our arm over here under this. Lift that up just enough where you can get the arm under there.
Second down, David Williams with the carry, and Williams up the middle, thrown down by Trey Flowers after a 3-yard gain. 3rd and 2 now for Kansas City at the 34-yard line of the Chiefs. Trey Flowers done a good job running
Okay. Okay, so we got things back together now. Let's go ahead and secure this. I'll tell you what, before we do that, let's go ahead and we're going to apply just a little bit of grease there. Okay. Okay, let's put our washer back on there. Get our C clip on.
On for the extra point is Harrison Butker. The kick is on the way, and Butker's kick is good. And one big play against a defense that gave up 63 plays of 20 yards or more during the season. That's the second big play of the night, and it turns into a touchdown. There's a break in the action brought to you by Haggerty. Need classic car insurance? Only Haggerty has the expertise and passion to protect your car how it deserves. Get a quote at Haggerty.com or with your local agent. Haggerty, for people who want cars. 14-7, New England's lead is a touchdown. 4:56 to go in the third. This is Westwood One's coverage of the AFC Championship game.
After a record-breaking year at Diamonds Direct, we just want to say thank you for your support, your confidence, your trust. It's never something we take for granted, and we pledge to work even harder in the new year to exceed your expectations. And for 2019 at Diamonds Direct, we're expanding our selection once again with an even larger inventory of hand-picked diamonds. These are precious 100% natural stones created.
Do this. Having difficulty seeing the screw there. On my very fashionable magnifying headgear here. Let's see what I did with the clip.
If you're getting engaged or celebrating a special anniversary this year, come let us share our passion for diamonds.
There we
let
go.
us show you how to identify
Okay.
real value, and let us help you make the most of this remarkable moment in your life.
It helps if you can see what you're doing here.
Uncompromising luxury and unbeatable value. Come discover the remarkable combination for yourself. Get details, directions, and store hours at diamondsdirect.com.
There we go. Okay. Alright, so we're just going to apply a little more grease there under that piece there. Don't need a lot there.
NationalGuard.com to learn about all of the STEM career opportunities in the Army National Guard. Sponsored by the Oklahoma Army National Guard. Aired by the Oklahoma Association of Broadcasters and this station. H&H Shooting Sports has OKC's best selection of shotguns, pistols, and rifles from all the top brands. At H&H Shooting Sports, get the H&K P30S 9mm.
Okay, so let's clean up everything else here and start putting this back together.
Later on, we'll select the drive of the game brought to you by Geico. Great news. There's a quick way you could save money. Switch to Geico. Go to geico.com and in 15 minutes
Okay, let's come back to this piece and let's get this cleaned up here.
come back in this one. They scored 59 points in the second half of their last two meetings with New England. 7 on the board there after the 4-play, 74-yard drive. Butker to kick off for Patterson. Back deep in the end zone. Butker drives his right leg through the football. Patterson sticks his arms outstretched. Ball bouncing through the end zone for a touchback. And the Patriots score to work at the 25-yard line. We talk about the points being scored in the second half. This year, that's the 5th touchdown pass by Mahomes.
Okay, so that cleaned up nicely. Let's apply just a little bit of lithium grease on the bottom side of that.
Anytime someone in the show is not in there, you got to go alert fast.
Alright, so that just fits down there, and there.
They have flown, I want to say 100%, but at least 95% of the time with that personnel grouping. Bob Sutton's got to let his defense know. Now it's Michelle and Devlin all set in the back.
Okay, let's go ahead and secure the center there with the C-clip.
Right sideline catch is made by Edelman, and Edelman pushed out of bounds a yard short of the first down by Kendall Fuller. Ball out 34, 3rd and 1 for New England. And Kansas City's crowd now trying to rally this defense in a 14-7 ball game.
Okay, and we're going to go back and reapply our spring, or install our spring here. Okay. Alright, that looks good. Let's go ahead and test it here. Alright, all looks good there. Alright, looks good. Alright, so now we want to go back and clean up and lubricate this assembly here. This is where you would adjust the height of the idler wheel, when you're selecting the different speeds. And so we're going to go in there and clean this up and clean that up as well. And make sure that it raises and lowers as it should. So this doesn't look too bad at all. Okay, so let's extend that out where we can get this end here first. Okay, so that looks clean. If I get in there and just get a little more out of there. Okay, so let's begin by applying some fresh grease here. Let's put just a little bit here on these sides. And then a little on this end here.
This year, first one tonight on Kansas City. A timeout, 10:19 to go in the third. Chiefs down 7 with the ball buried deep in their own end. You're listening to the AFC Championship game on Westwood Walk.
Playoff season, get motivated with multi-active and athleisure collections for men, women, and kids. It all starts with the right gear from the brands you love, like Nike, Adidas, Champion, Under Armour, Captain Fine Performance, Ideology, and others. Clock in with smartwatches from Fitbit, Garmin, and Samsung. Take on the elements with outerwear from the North Face and Columbia. And hit the streets with footwear from the Finish Line. We got your style for the court.
and it's kind of difficult to see the the parts that I'm lubricating here. I'll take some pictures and insert them in the video, close-up shots of these areas that we've applied grease to. Hopefully, I won't forget to do that. I guess that's my note to remind me right there. Okay. All right. So I think at this point, everything is good to go. We've cleaned and relubricated that. We've lubricated this. We've cleaned and lubricated these, and that's it for the base portion of the underside of the chassis. Now, what we need to do, we're going to go back and start cleaning up some of the assemblies that went on the bottom side, and then we'll start reinstalling those. And once we're done with that, then we'll go top side and finish up there. So I'm going to put this on pause for a second and be right back.
Well, as I was putting the various clips together for this video, I realized that so far, with what I've put together, we're already over an hour of content. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stop. We'll end up probably making 2 videos, this being part 1, and then there'll be a second part. So appreciate you guys watching. Please look for the second video where we'll finish the reconditioning of this record changer. And we are available to help you with your record changer. Most of our reconditioning projects run less than $100. The only time it gets more expensive than that is if we end up having to replace the idler wheel. So we're available to assist you with your record changer. And best way is probably to contact us through our Facebook page. It's Console Stereo Rescue. You can message us through our Facebook page, and we'll get back with you as quick as we can. So thanks again for watching, and look for part 2.